I'm Will Noonan, and you're listening to Tom Clark's Main Event.
This is Daddy Show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. This is episode number 28 of the podcast, and if you are joining us today for the very first time, welcome aboard. If you're coming back for another visit, we say, hey, thanks for returning. And for all those involved, we extend to you, as always, the customary laurel and a hearty handshake. Thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading. Hey, thanks for always being there, Doc. I'm going to do that every time now. Just so you know, just so we can clear up any sort of confusion right from the get-go here. That is, of course, an obvious Tombstone reference. This will be the one and only time that I ever explain it to you. Because if you don't know the reference, you and I cannot be friends. And if you don't know the reference of laurel and a hearty handshake, well, then you and I can't even really speak to each other, because that is, of course, a Blazing Saddles reference. So there you go, folks. That is the B-side of the show. That's the anthology material right there. That's sort of the bonus material where you get explained to you what it is I'm freaking talking about to begin with. You're on the inside. You're in the know. You have everything you ever wanted to know about the way I present, the way I introduce the program. There you go. I'm going to start adding more stuff to it. And at some later date, I'm going to explain those things as well. But like I said, with any luck, you're already on board. Where was I? Oh, yes, the show. So we are coming to you, as always, from the very lovely and spacious Boink Studios. That's right, folks. We're back in the studio this time around. And it's episode number 28. We are fastly approaching big number 30. 3-0 for the program. Isn't that something, folks? I know you're excited. I know you're pumped. I am too. Number 30. I mean, it's an accomplishment for any podcast. For me, it's taken a year. So don't anyone celebrate too awful much, because that's 2-point-something episodes per month. So it's not really that impressive. Stop insulting me, okay? Just don't make jokes at my expense. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed yourself. I hope that you've enjoyed the podcast. As I've said many times before, I do get some positive comments. I do, as always, enjoy the feedback. Thank you very much for hanging in there with me and for being patient. It takes me a while to churn these babies out. July was a banner month for the show. I think I counted 4 different episodes in the month of July. It's pretty good stuff, man. I'm trying to push that big 30. So there you go. You caught that, right? So, okay. Well, again, cat's out of the bag on everything now, isn't it? Well, with no further ado, let's get right down to it. The show this time around. The main event, pro wrestling versus the world. And if you know anything about what's been happening in recent days, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Dana White, the kingpin of UFC, took to Twitter very recently and responded to someone on Twitter that criticized the price of the UFC pay-per-view. And the tweet went something like this: I wish I could watch the Rousey fight tomorrow night. Vince got you beat there. Our pay-per-views are only $9.99. To which Dana White did respond, and he said, I hear you, bro, but fake blank should be $9.99. And the response to that, this is fun, follow along. Bro, try it out sometime. Walk out of that ring and tell me it's fake. And here's the response. This is a good one. Trust me, my friend, it's fake. Not disrespecting what they do. All the WWE guys I have met are awesome people, but yes, it's fake. Okay, so this, needless to say, has set the world on fire. This thing has completely blown up. It's got fans all over the planet talking. People are going nuts over this. Many WWE superstars, TNA guys, Ring of Honor guys are speaking about it. Austin Aries is one. Brother Ray, Bully Ray, as he's being known now. Velvet Sky talked about it. Seth Rollins, WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Guys cut Dana White some slack. I mean, he's had 1 million matches. So his opinion is super valid and should be taken as gospel. So, yes, they are coming out in droves to support not only WWE, but the industry itself. The business of professional wrestling has once again come under harsh criticism. Now, for anyone that's been a fan for longer than, 10 minutes, you've already endured this criticism. Okay, you've went through it. You might have went through it yesterday, for all I know. You go through it all the time. There's a good reason for that, okay? But it's because it doesn't matter how long you've been a fan. Doesn't matter how much you love the sport. Doesn't matter how much these guys bleed and sweat and pay the price, as Flair said back in the day. There's always going to be that element of people outside the industry that do not understand the industry. They're always going to criticize. They're always going to have something to say. Something's always going to come up where you're going to stand there and just shake your head and say, man, what is your deal? Why can't you just back off? Do you know what I mean? Why can't you just live your life and let me live mine, for crying out loud? We put up with it all the time. We do. I've put up with it for years. I'm in my extremely early 40s, okay? And I've been going through this my entire life. When I was a teenager, pro wrestling was not cool, okay? You didn't talk about it. And brother, I live down south where pro wrestling's huge down here, okay? But the fact is, when I was a teenager, no one talked about it. It didn't happen, okay? And if you did, people kind of laughed at you. It was considered stupid. I mean, it was. And there was myself and a handful of my best friends who love the business. We watched NWA Worldwide Wrestling every Saturday. You know, we got involved and again, watch it as much as we could. We would, we had our own federations. I had my own federation on paper for years. This is no joke. And I had created my own wrestlers, my own superstars, my own gimmicks, my own talents. I mean, I had cardboard championships. I had thrown a mattress on the floor, had ring entrance music and all that, had a phony microphone. The whole nine. I mean, if you grew up a wrestling fan, you probably did all that stuff. Just like if you grew up a baseball fan, you grew up a fan of the Yankees, you probably spent many days in your backyard with a bat and a ball and, you're pointing up to the sky. You're pointing to the stands where you're going to hit the ball like Babe Ruth, right? I mean, it depends on what sport you're into. It depends on what you're dedicated to, what you grew up with. That's what you're going to try to emulate later on. That's what you fell in love with as early as a kid. And that's what you want to follow. For me, it was pro wrestling. I was never a baseball fan. I didn't get to the NFL until much, much later. I didn't care about the NBA till much later, after I was actually in high school. I didn't care about organized sports at all. All I cared about was pro wrestling. To me, that was the sport. When Ric Flair called it the sport, Dusty Rhodes called it the sport of professional wrestling. Man, I bought into that. Hook, line, and sinker, I did. And I not only did I buy in, but I was entertained by it. I had fun with it. Everything about pro wrestling to me spoke to me. Everything about pro wrestling made me feel at home. Again, when you grew up with something, when you grew up with something right there in front of you and it's always there for you, it's there every week, it becomes like a member of the family. I will go ahead and tell you right up front that the majority of this podcast, or at least a real good bit of it, comes from a column that I published actually on August 3rd on my own blog, which you can find at tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. And the blog itself is, of course, about Dana White and everything that's going on. Not only that, but, some of my thoughts and feelings that come from being a fan, a lifelong fan of the business. And I felt compelled to write this as I feel compelled to do this episode, okay? Because there's stuff I just have to say and get out there to you. The column is entitled Dana White Rallies the Pro Wrestling Fan Base. Because, brother, that's what he's done. Okay? Straight up. Without even knowing he did it. Okay? He thought he was trying to be cute on Twitter and took a shot at a fan. Okay? He may not have made it personal. He didn't call the guy names or anything, so that's cool. But he did take a shot at the industry anyway. And, again, as a fan, as a kid that was a fan, I never told anybody. My close friends knew I was. People that I ran into and met at school or outside of school or church or wherever it was found out pretty soon that I was a fan, okay? Because it came through, it showed in everything I did. I mean, I was 12 years old quoting Dusty Rhodes. I mean, I was. To this day, I still do it. It's something I do. I always have. And it's just, people would look at it, kind of smile, and say, "Oh, ha, 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 it's fake." Yep, there you go. Fake. The word, okay? There's never been a harsher, stronger, more intense four-letter word when it comes to pro wrestling fans than the word fake. 4 little letters, one small, tiny little word that does nothing but destroy us from the inside out. You can call me anything you want to call me. You can call the business anything you want to call it. The moment you use the word fake, for me, game on, okay? Because that's what it did for me. It just incensed me. It got me going. Do you think, by the way, as a sidebar here, do you really think that Dana White didn't know that? You really believe that Dana White didn't know what that word would do when he said to the fan what he said on Twitter? I mean, be honest here, man. Dana White, he may be ignorant of the business, but he's not stupid. He knows what that word does. And if he doesn't, he sure knows now. Here's the trick. Here's the thing that no one's really talking about right now. Everyone's ticked off at Dana. I get why they are. There's talents inside these locker rooms, WWE locker room, TNA, Ring of Honor, probably Lucha Underground. There's guys out there who are really ticked off about this. There are some guys in the industry who have actually kind of took up for him a little bit and said, well, if you don't like what he's saying, stop make the matches look real. Stop making them look fake to begin with. That's a shot, right? That came from Disco Inferno, by the way. Go look it up. It's on Twitter. But it's just one of those things where it's like there's more voices right now against what Dana White said than there are for it, for sure. Okay, no doubt about it. And here it is from a fan's perspective, from this fan's perspective for sure. Dana White doesn't get it, okay? Because while we are all organizing the mob and lighting the torches to go storm Dana White's castle, take a step back and think about it. I mean, really think about it. Are you really ticked off right now? Are you? Is it enough to make your blood boil, or are you just mildly annoyed? Because I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to diehard fans, which I consider myself a diehard fan, as I'm sure many of you do out there, when it comes to diehard fans, this word and what he said means more than it does to, say, the casual viewer, to the fan that occasionally watches Monday Night Raw, to the fan that occasionally watches something on the network or on a buddy's network or whatever, that just occasionally watches. This means more to us than it ever will to them. Why? Because as a diehard fan, you're fully invested in the business. We talked about before, if you grew up a fan of the NBA, the NFL, of Major League Baseball, you have your favorite team, okay? You are fully invested in your team, in your team's winning and losing. You are fully invested in what happens with your favorite players. You care about what happens with your favorite players. You care whether or not your team wins or loses. And when your team wins, you're ecstatic, you're through the roof, you're on cloud nine. When they lose, you hate everyone and everything. You can't even be dealt with, can't even be talked to. Okay, I've been through those times before about pro wrestling because pro wrestling is my sport. Okay, but as a fan base, we get criticized. And I spoke about this very recently on the show here, as I have before. We get very heavily criticized, okay, when it comes to our criticism of the business. If we ever speak up, whenever we complain about Raw or a pay-per-view or a character's direction or whoever it is or whatever it is, man, we get ripped. And I mean, we get ripped hard. It's insane how much we get ripped. Well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Turn the channel. Stop complaining. Yada, yada, yada. And man, it never ends. These people don't understand either, okay? Because we're not coming at it from the aspect of I'm a fanatical fan that's out of touch with reality and don't understand what he's seeing is predetermined and choreographed. It's not athletic competition, legitimate sport. That's not it at all. We're coming from it from the aspect of this is the sport we love. We want it to be successful. We want our favorites to do well. We want to see the guys that work hard get what they deserve in the end. And when it doesn't happen, we get ticked off. We're no different than any other fan of any other major sport out there. That's what people don't understand. So I will defend us as an assortment of fans to the end because we get a bad rap. We get not to criticize like crazy. We get criticized from within. Okay? we get criticized from within. It's the truth. We criticize each other. We burn our pro wrestling writers to the ground. I've been burned and criticized and raked over the coals so many times. It's crazy. It happens to me all the time to this day. Okay. We crucify Vince McMahon for his sins regarding the industry and what that he should or shouldn't be doing. But when it comes to, and here's the switch, when it comes to a voice from outside of our ranks, forget about it. That's a Katie bar the door scenario right there, and we all get sucked into the middle of it. That's what's happening right now with this Dana White controversy. And it's really only controversy to us. His side probably doesn't even care. I mean, the guy's, I'm sure he's probably financially pretty secure. Can we just be straight about it? Okay. I'm sure he's doing pretty well. And, unlike what he said about us, we're not going to sit here and diss him personally, okay, or diss his sport. Although I do have some things coming up later that I'm going to share with you. Won't this be nice? It'll be fun, trust me. But the idea here is to take the high road. It's to not come down to someone else's level. I've got a 6-year-old, okay? And my lesson to my 6-year-old from day one has always been, no matter what anyone says or does to you, take the high road. Okay, if physically you get into an altercation, everybody gets one. Okay, everybody gets one. Somebody takes a swing at you or pushes you on the playground or whatever it is, guess what? Walk away. Okay, walk away. And if that person pursues you, you turn around and defend yourself. Because everybody should get a chance. Walk away. When it comes time to defend yourself, when it comes time to take up for yourself, you better do it. And don't hold back. And yes, he's a purple belt in Taekwondo, and he's 6 years old because he's being taught right now the right way to do it, okay? But not just physically, man, but verbally as well. How do you conduct yourself when you're criticized by someone? How do you as pro wrestling fans conduct yourself when someone from outside the business, when someone from outside the industry has ripped you, when someone from outside the industry has criticized the sport that you grew up with? Okay, you grew up with these guys. All right, you grew up with considering these guys your family. They're part of your everyday family. It's the truth. I did. I mean, Dusty Rhodes was my dad. I mean, I've said that so many times in the past, but it bears repeating. I did truly look at Dusty as being my father figure. It wasn't something I really pieced together until much later in life. But when it did hit me, when I did realize it, I realized, wow, that's what I've been doing all along. That's crazy. I had no idea I was even doing it, okay? But when you grow up with this, and it's part of your everyday existence, your everyday scenario, your everyday life, every single day of the week, and then someone from the outside criticizes it, that's hard to take, okay? Now, on the flip side of this argument is this. It's real simple. Pro wrestling has had its fair share of controversies. It's had its fair share of bad business. It's had its fair share of sad stories and tragic stories for a lot of years now. And I got news for you. It's going to keep happening, okay? From, all the way back to the steroid controversy in WWE, to the guys who are dying young now because of the way they abused their bodies in the past with drugs and alcohol and steroids, whatever else they were doing to themselves, okay, over the years, to Hulk Hogan's racist comments, to everything in between. And you know what other stuff I'm talking about here, man. You know. But there's a lot of stuff inside the business, not just WWE, but inside the pro wrestling industry as a whole, that has given it a bad rap, that's given it a bad name. And for those things that we hate, for those things that we despise as pro wrestling fans, nothing can ever erase that noise from our heads, okay? I got news for you. That noise is always going to be in our heads, man. There's never going to be a time when that noise is not in our heads. I'm just going to be straight with you. For anyone out there who has criticized us and said that pro wrestling is this, pro wrestling is that, oh, what about, Hogan? What about blah, 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 whatever? Okay, fine. Do you think we've forgotten? No, we just don't like to talk about it because we just want to move on. That's not who we are. Okay, all the controversy and all the stupid stories and all the dumb things these guys do to themselves and each other outside the ring and sometimes inside the ring, but a lot of times outside the ring, and the way they hurt their families, the way they do this, that, and the other, that's not who we are as a whole. We're in this for the long haul. We're in this as fans because we believe in the sport, because we believe in the business of professional wrestling. We do. It's the truth, man. When I look at pro wrestling, I've always stated my belief that pro wrestling is the one true American art form. It is. It's performance art at its finest. It's sports theater, I guess, if you want to call it. But it's to me, it's the one true American art form. Okay, and other countries have adopted pro wrestling and have been very successful at it. Japan, not the least of which, Japan, Canada, other countries out there, England, of course, Mexico, absolutely. But to me, in my opinion, good raw storytelling, heart, passion for the business, all of that started here. Okay, the storytelling aspect, the showtime of it, I can't wait to get in my seat. The show's an hour and a half away. I just want to get in my seat and I just want to look at the ring for an hour and a half. That's me. To this day, man. I mean, I write about this stuff all the time. I live this stuff all the time, okay? I can't wait to get in the arena and get in my seat and just stare at the ring for an hour and a half. I'm dead serious. That's fun to me. I love the environment. When I got in the business, I loved the environment. Show would start at 8. I was there at 6. As soon as the doors to the locker room opened, depending on what town we were in, if I could get there in a hurry or not, I was there at 6. I was there when 20 minutes after the promoter showed up. I was there before half the talent showed up because I couldn't wait to get in the environment. Be in the locker room with those guys and shake hands and see faces I hadn't seen in a couple of years or so, or whatever it was. Meet guys that I'd never met of but had heard about. Sit down and tell little war stories, exchange ideas, talk about match finishes, talk about, what gear was the guy wearing that night, and funny stuff that's happened to us back in the day. That's my kind of environment. I love those things. I love that aspect of the business. I love so much about the business. I'm not going to lie to you here, man. It's what I am. It's who I am. And for those of us who grew up fans, it's always going to be who we are and what we are. It's the truth. Nothing's ever going to change that. Okay? But the thing about it for us, the thing that holds us together from all outside attacks, again, is the belief in the business. It's what we feel that we know. It's what we feel like we believe, what pro wrestling should be. Because pro wrestling at its finest is the most exciting, most compelling, most dynamic television on the dial. You can't find anything any more exciting. People compare it to action movies, and I have too. I'm on a huge Expendables kick right now. I've got all 3 movies on Blu-ray, and I can't stop watching them. And right now, by the way, part 2 is my favorite, if I had to pick one. And I've compared pro wrestling to action movies. I have many times in the past, but it's not even the same. Do you know what I mean? Even at pro wrestling, and I've been writing about it for a long time, I can see things before they happen. And that doesn't mean I'm smarter than anyone else. It just means I've paid attention more than other people have sometimes, I guess. Plus, I'm a nerd, and I tend to be anal about everything I watch and do and say. It's kind of who I am. Sorry. But it served me well. I'm here talking to you, aren't I? Aren't you having fun? Come on. You love me. You know you do. But after a while, you get to see things before they happen. I can predict it. Guess what? I still have fun versus going to watch an action film where I see, 3 guys killed with the same bullet. And I'm like, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? Very formulaic, very cliche, very stereotypical action film. Blah, whatever. I'm not saying the Expendables doesn't have those moments. They sure do. But I'm just kind of hooked on them. But let me tell you what I'm hooked on about the Expendables since you asked. The characters, the personalities, the assortment of guys that Stallone put together for these movies. To me, it's pro wrestling. It's that assortment of characters. Each one has a story to tell. Each one has a different background. Each one's coming from a different viewpoint. But when they all get together, they're all working toward the same goal. And to me, that's pro wrestling. Each guy is each character. Each guy has a story. Each guy has a background. But at the end of the day, they're all working for the betterment of the product. Because, not necessarily the company sometimes, but the betterment of the product. Because if you improve the product, if you leave the business better than the way you got there, chances are, then it's going to exist after you're gone. And isn't that the goal? If you're a real pro wrestling lifer, if you really have heart and desire and passion for the business, don't you want the business to be here later? Don't you want it to exist long after you've shuffled off the mortal coil? And isn't that what you want? Because it is for me. I want the business to be better than what it is right now, honestly. And my side of things, my little corner of the industry, the pro wrestling writing part of the business, I want my section to be better than it was after I've stopped doing this, whatever that day may come when I'm old, my hands don't work anymore or whatever. Okay. But I would like to think that when people listen to my show or read my stuff, they get something out of it. It's not like, oh God, here we go, some other doofus with an opinion. Who cares? Screw him. You know what I mean? I don't want that. I want it to be, this guy made sense. He's relevant. You think that there's guys in WWE's locker room right now that don't want to be relevant? Let me just ask you this. How many guys do you think are in WWE's locker room right now that are just there riding the bench earning a paycheck? Maybe not even earning. How about just getting paid? They don't even care about it. If you say none, you have lost your mind. There's some in there. Don't be mistaken. You know who they are? You go figure that out for yourselves. Go watch their matches. You'll figure it out. I'm not going to sit here and throw names at you. It's up to you to decide. All right? It's your opinion, just like I have mine. But I will tell you this. In my opinion, a good bulk of those guys want desperately to get on TV. Why? To make money? Sure. Sure, it's a business. Don't belittle them for that. You have a job, don't you? They have a job too. Make money. They got to make money so they can feed their family. That's what it's all about, right? Do better for themselves. It's the American dream, isn't it? So don't begrudge them their money. But a good bulk of these guys got into the business because they have passion for the business. Because again, they want to leave it better than when it was when they came in. They want to leave a lasting impression so people can look back at their body of work and say, wow, that dude killed it. I loved his matches. He had a great career. Can't wait to watch him on the network now. Do you see what I'm saying? That's important big time stuff, man. I mean, there's a lot of guys, in my opinion, in WWE's locker room right now that has that exact mindset. That's what you have to have. Otherwise, how in the world could you ever be considered relevant? Okay? But again, we have gone back as a collective of pro wrestling fans, and we are rallying together to attack this guy, to defend our business, to do all of other sorts of wacky things people are saying to this guy right now. Okay? But when it all comes down to, for me, he doesn't get it. Dana White doesn't understand. And you know what? That's cool with me. He doesn't have to understand. It's not required for him to understand. The fact that he doesn't understand the business, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. I'm still going to watch Raw. I'm still going to watch the network. I'm still going to buy the DVDs and the t-shirts. I'm still going to buy my kid the t-shirts too. Okay? And to me, that's what matters. I'm still into the business. I'm still going to watch New Japan. I'm still going to watch Lucha Underground. I'm still going to watch as much business and much of the product as I possibly can. They're not going to stop that. The critics will not stop that. Dana White will not stop that. It's sad to me that this dude doesn't understand. He is part of a billion-dollar industry himself. He's the head guru. He's the Vince McMahon of his industry. Okay, he is. So he knows what it's like to have a bunch of zeros on his paycheck and to pay his top workers a bunch of zeros on their paychecks as well. CM Punk's there. Brock Lesnar was there. He's familiar with the guys. He didn't diss the guys. He dissed the product, said it was fake. Why are pro wrestlers taking offense when he said, I met the WWE guys and they're great people, but it's fake? Because when you diss the product, you have dissed the talent. Don't you understand? It's like sitting there looking at a piece of art on the wall and saying, I hate that. I love the guy that painted it, but that's a piece of crap. That's not real. That's phony. You've just dissed the artist. You've bagged on him. You've put that guy down. You insult a man's work, you insult him. Do you understand? I mean, that's how it works. When you insult a match, when you insult the business, you insult the men and women who are putting their lives on the line every day to entertain just common, regular, everyday people from every walks of life, from white collar to blue collar and every collar in between, baby. Men and women in the ring are putting their lives on the line, and they're attempting to entertain the masses. And when you sit there and you criticize the business, the product, and you call it fake, and you insult it, and you put it down, dude, you're offending them. That's their output. That's what they did. That was their contribution. This is what they do for a living. And you're going to call it fake. Okay? That's why people are upset, in case you didn't know. Fans are upset because we've heard it our whole lives and we're sick of hearing it. Because calling it fake for us belittles us as fans. That's where the fans come down from it as. You're trying to imply that we're idiots for watching something that's fake in your idea, in your words, fake. So he's an idiot, okay? Because you watch fake stuff. Really? Okay? So that's where the fans are coming in, what direction we're coming from, okay? But the boys in the locker room and the girls are coming from the other direction, where it's like, you've insulted me. This is my body of work. This is what I do for a living. Who do you think you are? Okay? So Dana's got some heat on him. But he just doesn't get it. And this is the part that I believe, I'm not going to speak for the talent, all due respect to the talent, even the talent that maybe I don't care for, as far as their characters or who they work for, doesn't make a difference. I respect each and every man and woman that steps into the ring and tries to earn a living by entertaining us. I do. 100%. Okay. And I can't speak for them, but I can speak for myself, and I can probably speak for fans when I can say that Dana White's biggest problem is he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. And with anyone that doesn't get it, there's virtually no way to make him get it. He's coming from an area, from a viewpoint that most of us as fans are not and do not understand. We grew up with the business. As I said, it became part of our lives, our everyday existence. Okay? I told you where I stand with the guys in the NWA. Those guys were my family. Okay? It's the truth. They were my family. They were as real to me as anyone physically in my life, and more so, and I was a happy kid because of it. I wasn't that kid with invisible friends that no one could see or hear except for me. I had real living, breathing people that I considered my friends and my family, and they're real people who had their own friends and their own family, but they were there for me. Do you see what I'm saying? For 10 years of my life, from the age of 5 to the age of 15, I had no man in my life. Okay? My father was killed when I was 4.5, 6 days before my 5th birthday. I had no Dusty Rhodes. But Dusty Rhodes became my dad. Do you see what I'm saying? He was as close to my dad as any man in my life I've ever met. Because my dad was a big guy. He had a sense of humor. He had a good heart. He cared about people. He loved people. And he fought hard to protect and provide for his family. Okay? That meant something to me. And again, it wasn't until much later in life that I put all the pieces together. But that's what I was doing. I had created my own family. Because for 10 years, it was me and my mom and a handful of grandparents that didn't live very long. And aunts and uncles that were or were not always there. Cousins I rarely saw towards the end of it. Okay? I created my own family, people that I could depend on. They were there for me every single week. That's what we're talking about here. Okay? I mean, Dusty was a lot more than just a guy in black trunks and cowboy boots telling a story in the ring. He was setting an example for all those that believed in him. Okay? Why was I a happy kid when I was watching wrestling? Because how are you not going to be happy watching Dusty take on the Four Horsemen? Seeing him rise above the attack, fight back from certain defeat, and keep on pushing, man. Never give up. It made me do the same. He inspired me. He caused me to not only understand, but believe in the American dream more than a lot of adults I knew. Mention the words American dream right now to an adult in this country and watch him laugh. Laugh at you, okay? No one believes it anymore. It's a shame. We've lost that as a country. Soapbox. We've lost that as a country, and it's a shame. It's a damn shame we've lost that. We don't believe anymore, okay? We look at how bad things are around us. We look at how low the government can get sometimes, and we look at how we've done nothing but take care of people from cradle to the grave and give them everything that they've ever needed to survive. They don't have to lift a finger to do anything for themselves. What happened to the American dream? What happened to getting out there and making something of your life? When everyone tells you no, you say yes and you fight to get it. What happened to that? We've lost that. Dusty Rhodes had it. I believed in it as a 9-year-old kid. Okay? I believed in it. All right? Adults in my life didn't believe it then. They sure don't believe it now. But pro wrestling at its core, the fundamental principles of pro wrestling that gets it over, that makes money, that sells to the masses, good versus evil, right versus wrong. It's the truth, man. It's the absolute truth. And every time we lose sight of the bare essentials, of the basics, of the core beliefs and principles of the business of professional wrestling, we have lost sight, not only as fans, but as promoters and as the talent of what the business is supposed to be about. The easiest story in the world to tell is this guy doesn't like this guy. Let's sell our differences in the ring. From pro wrestling to boxing to, yes, even the octagon itself, to UFC. Okay? And you can throw money on top of it. You can throw pyro and lights on top of it. You can throw showtime on top of it. All you want to. Okay? But at the end of the day, it all comes back to that basic story of you and I have a problem. Let's sell our differences like men. That's what it's about. Okay? And you can soften that up with the women. You can soften that up with other aspects. It doesn't have to be, blood and guts and chairs and all that other nonsense. It doesn't have to be that way, man. It can be purely athletic. It can be purely technical from start to finish. It can be Flair versus Steamboat. 2 technicians in the ring. It can. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. It doesn't have to be flaming tables. I didn't say that. I didn't say you got to be two cavemen beating each other over the heads with steel chairs. It's not required. Just tell your story, which is the drawing point, the central drawing point of the business, is telling your story in the ring. That's what it's all about. That's what Dusty did. That's what the guys in NWA did. And by the way, speaking of the pyro, the lights and all that stuff, let's just flash back for a few moments here. I watched UFC in the very beginning when you could barely see it on television, okay? And they tried to get it off TV in the very early stages of MMA, when MMA and the brand, UFC, the brand, became the one that became known worldwide. Well, especially in this country, became the one that got over more than anything else. I remember when they were trying to get on TV. And I'll tell you this, I don't recall the big shiny title belts in the beginning. I don't recall the Videotron or entrance music or pyro. I don't remember any of that. That was for pro wrestling, and pro wrestling was fake. Pro wrestling was just show business, and we don't do that. We're real contact sport. We're real fighting. We're not pro wrestling. Go watch it right now. UFC looks like a WWE pay-per-view. Okay? They've got the lights, they got the pyro, they got the Tron, they got music, they got the entrance. The guys have characters now. You know, this guy's a jerk, this guy's a hard worker, this guy's a saint, this guy's a sinner. I mean, it's one side of the spectrum to the other. It's pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling as a full contact sport. Here's the difference, and this is the part of the show where I told you there might be a few shots taken. It's nothing personal. Google's there for everyone to go look, research a little bit farther than Google if you want to. Go as many sites you possibly can. Be sure your numbers are straight. And when you are, you can give these stats as I'm about to present to you here. The difference between UFC and WWE pay-per-views, UFC's highest attended pay-per-view was in 2011 at almost 56,000 fans. 56,000 fans. That's impressive. It is. Okay, 4 years ago, 56,000 fans. WrestleMania 31 this year, attendance was nearly 77,000. WrestleMania 30 in 2014 came in at nearly 76,000. And WrestleMania 29 in 2013 was nearly 81,000 fans. I wonder if it mattered to the 20,000 plus more fans than UFC had at each event that pro wrestling is quote unquote fake. Now, if you don't want to compare the two because of what happens in the ring versus the octagon, fine. You can't really. It's not the same thing. You're silly if you do. We'll get into that in a moment. But if you want to compare brass tacks, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty of it, if you want to talk about money, look no further than the stats I just gave you. Does that mean that WWE outperforms all the time on a consistent basis? Of course not. WWE had some of the slowest ratings in the history of Monday Night Raw in the past several weeks. We all know this. We're aware of it. That's why Taker's working Lesnar at SummerSlam coming up. That's why Sting's probably coming back before maybe he really wanted to. Okay? I mean, evidently. That's what we've been told anyway. Because WWE is scrambling to right the ship. They're as fallible as any other sports team out there, as any other sports franchise. They're as fallible as UFC or Pride Fighting or whatever companies out there that exist right now. Because you rise and fall based upon people's disposable income. Pro wrestling, UFC, MMA, everything, that is based upon disposable income. People don't have to watch. They don't have to come. They don't have to buy the merch. They don't have to support their favorite guys. They don't have to watch on TV. They don't have to go to live events. They don't have to do anything. That's disposable income. Okay. This is not a matter of one, grocery store chain versus another where people have to eat. Or one, fuel station versus another where people have to have gas. This is a matter of disposable income. Entertainment. People spending their hard-earned money on entertainment. What do they want to be entertained by? That rises and falls as the day sets and rises. It does. Because the economy affects everything, okay? When the economy is bad or rough and money is tight in your household, how often do you go see WWE live? Can you afford $9.99 a month? It sounds good. It does. It's cheap. When bills are tight and you're trying to tighten the belt and you've got the calculator every time you go to the grocery store, $10 a month is $10 a month, dude. Okay? Seriously, that's $120 a year. You could use that money. I'm just saying. So for WWE to expect you to stick around, they got to make it entertaining, which means they got to do things like throw Undertaker at SummerSlam. They do. They want to have you tune in again. They want to have you watch. They don't want you to go anywhere. UFC is the same exact way. Ronda Rousey's last 3 fights lasted a grand total of 64 seconds. 64 seconds, man. Now, who feels like they were ripped off by getting those pay-per-views? Probably the same folks that felt like they were ripped off watching Tyson back in the day when he was making extremely quick work of his opponents, man. Dude, if you blinked, you missed the fight. It's the truth. And you know what? People who get upset about that have every right to get upset. It's not because Ronda should have stretched it out and made it last longer. No, you go for the kill, dude. Ronda's a beast, man. When you're a predator, you go in and you get blood as soon as you can. And when you taste blood, you keep going till they're dead. That's what a shark does. Dude, she's a great white, man. You're going to sit there and tell her not to go full throttle. You've got to be kidding me. You're smoking some dope on that one, man. Don't tell me you're upset about that. People are upset that they threw a lot of money at a pay-per-view that lasted in the main event was, what was it, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it was. That was it. That was it. Last 3 fights combined, 64 seconds. How much are you really going to pay for the next one that she fights? Really? I mean, seriously, no jokes. I mean, all jokes aside, no kidding here, folks. Are you going to buy the next pay-per-view that Ronda Rousey fights in? Or are you going to say, 64 seconds, I think I'm good. I'll keep my $50 or 40, whatever the hell it was. I'll keep it. I mean, seriously. I mean, at some point, you got to start thinking money. That's what a lot of people are going through. When you see the ratings on Raw dip, it's because it's summertime, kids are still out of school, people are out enjoying the weather, or there's other sports on TV, something affected the ratings that night. Monday Night Football will be back in the fall. You'll see Raw go through some issues on that as well. Okay, things happen. And of course, sometimes Raw's not very good. Why is that? Because the talent sucks, because it's fake. No. Because the talent are human. Because the talent sometimes turn in matches that are maybe less than stellar. Because sometimes the talent work with what they're given to work with. They work with whatever booking they have that night. If they're booked in poor matches, it's going to show. Okay? And it's not going to be well received. Ratings will tank based upon the booking. And when the booking's not right, the talent will suffer. Now, that's not to say WWE is always to blame. I think it's a combination of both and a lot of factors involved. Okay? But we're talking about disposable income here. Okay? UFC, Dana White knew very early on, if they really wanted to get this thing over to the mainstream, they had to shine it up, put some lights on it, give it the bells and whistles, give it the WWE entertainment package. Okay? Give it the Tron, the music, the power, the lights, the characters, the storytelling, the big shiny belts. Okay? And as soon as they did, bam, people start looking. People start noticing, okay? I'm not saying it turned everybody's head to the product, but man, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt, okay? For a company that always wanted to distance itself from pro wrestling, they sure do look like Monday Night Raw right now, okay? Now, let me say this to you. Dana White's no fool. He's a businessman. Chances are he took it personal what this kid said on Twitter. He took it personal what this guy said about, your pay-per-views are too much, and he directly compared it to WWE and called out Vince at the same time. There's always been a sort of a healthy, maybe competitive spirit between he and Vince, but be forewarned, Vince McMahon is a competitor like none other. Okay, if Dana White were a pro wrestling promoter, this would be on like Donkey Kong. Okay? Straight up. Dana White's face would be on the dartboard in Vince's office right now, and there'd be 3 or 4 darts sticking out of his left eyeball. Straight up. Straight up. Okay? Here's the problem. He's not direct competition. He's not. This is not a pro wrestling promoter we're talking about here. UFC and WWE offer 2 different products targeted at the same audience. So that means that incidents like this and incidents like the ones we've seen in the past and incidents in the future are going to happen. But for Dana White to take a shot the way he did speaks volumes of not only what he thinks he knows, but also what he really doesn't know at all. And that is that you cannot compare the two. Pro wrestling is not UFC. It's not MMA. It's 2 entirely different animals. Okay? I mean, seriously. UFC's been around for 10 minutes in the grand scheme of things. Okay? The WWE Championship is 52 years old. 52 years. Did you hear what I said? It's 52 years old. All right, dating back to 1963. Straight up. Okay? So, to sit back and to diss a company that's been in existence, been that title, just forget Capital Wrestling Corporation, forget that for a minute, before it became the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Just their belt, 1963, that title's always been there, okay? 52 years old. Seriously, half century here. And you're going to rip on that. Isn't that something? I can't even put my head around that, okay? Before you go ripping on someone, this is for Dana White or whoever else cares to listen. You better be sure that you got the right ammunition, okay? I have criticized workers in the past. I've criticized other people and other places, other things, whatever. But you have to be very careful how you criticize, because people like me come along and throw stats back at him, throw numbers back at him. Now, my life does not hinge on WWE, okay? I didn't grow up a fan of WWE. I'm still not technically a fan of WWE. I'm a fan of pro wrestling. I happen to look beyond WWE. I know you're looking at me right now and you're saying, dude, how could you possibly do that? It's very easy for me, okay? It's not hard at all. I look at it from the pro wrestling standpoint. That's why when they do things that are not, I don't want to say tradition, because tradition sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. I get that. You have to stay current. I get that too. Trust me, okay? I'm not one of those old guys that just is stuck in the past and refuses to embrace anything new or innovative. I never have been. I say whatever furthers the cause of the sport of professional wrestling, I'm all for it. Okay, advance it. I'm cool with that. Evolve it. I'm cool with that too. I don't like de-evolution. I don't like to see anything de-evolve, especially in the business. I don't like to see it. I don't want to see it. Okay, go back to, the business being ridiculous and being too shiny and too cute and too bright and too furry and fuzzy, and there's parrots and bulldogs and gators and lizards, and shut up. I mean, seriously, that's the WWF I knew when I was a kid. I wanted nothing to do with it. I loved Jake the Snake Roberts. Damien had nothing to do with it. I loved Jake because of the character. The snake was just fluff. Seriously, it was the whipped cream. It was whipped cream on top of peanut butter pie. I don't need anything on top of peanut butter pie. My God, I'm hungry now. I don't need it, man. I just need the pie itself. You see what I'm saying? I didn't need that stuff. It wasn't necessary. Your diehard fan doesn't need the fluff that's thrown on top of it by Vince McMahon and his family. They want the wrestling. The fluff is there for the casual viewers who keep turning the TV every 2 seconds because they're watching something else, or because they get ticked off because one match doesn't go their way, and they went on Twitter and complained about it for 3 hours straight. All right, guess what? Shut up and get back to watching. Honestly. Because the rest of us are sitting here waiting on you. We're getting tired of, quite frankly, of hearing about it. State your opinion, say what you got to say, then shut up and move on. Stop beating something to death. As we are beating to death Dana White's opinion. Thank you, someone in the back row, for raising your hand and making the point. I appreciate it. It's the truth. We have beat this thing into the ground. We, by virtue of talking about it, have given Dana White more publicity, more press than he ever deserved. Okay? Because, no disrespect intended to Dana White, I can't sit here and rip on UFC. I can't. I don't know enough about the sport of UFC. Straight up. I know a little bit, and dude, you can fill a thimble with what I know about that company. It's the truth. I know a few figures and stats. That's it. Okay, I can't testify what those guys, those men and women go through every day. It's intense. I'm sure it's the hard work, the fortitude it takes, the training, the commitment. My God, it's a lifestyle for those guys. It is. Guess what else is a lifestyle? Pro wrestling. Okay, so for them to sit back and criticize anyone on our side of the fence is ridiculous in and of itself. Because if you don't understand the lifestyle, if you don't understand the commitment, the hard work it takes to be a pro wrestler, shut up. Honestly, if you want to rip on the company, you want to rip on the company for its faults, for losing money, for having poor ratings. Guess what? Have at it. Have fun. You're ripping on a company. Okay, he ripped on the business. He ripped on the business. That's different. Okay, you want to rip on WWE? Have at it. Have fun. Go with God. When you rip on the business, you've insulted not only the talent, the people that run it, the people that run other companies. You've insulted the fans. And I'm gonna tell you something about the fans, dude. We got teeth. We got a lot of teeth, man, and we don't stop. Okay, that's good and bad, because some of those people with teeth will come after me too. Okay, it's the truth. Because why? Because everyone's got an opinion. Because the pro wrestling fan base is very rabid. We're very passionate. It's what causes me to start talking 100 miles an hour. It's what causes you to get hot under the collar when Zack Ryder can't get on TV. Okay, it causes so many different things on down the line. Why didn't Roman get a shot at the championship belt? Why did Roddy Piper never get one WWE title run? God rest his soul. Not one. Okay? Seriously. Why did Jake Roberts not get one sniff of the WWE championship? Never. Why did it not happen? That's not fair. See what that comes from? That comes from fans who are passionate, who love. They don't... Dude, if you grew up with WWE and you love that company, hey, that's cool. More power to you. If you grew up a pro wrestling fan, you don't love WWE. You love the sport. You want WWE to be successful for the sake of the sport. You want the talent to be successful for the sake of the sport, okay? Because the guy you're pulling for today probably will not be wrestling 20 years from now, okay? So 20 years from now, you'll have someone new to pull for, provided you live long enough to stick around that long and pull for them. Your kids will be able to pull for that guy. Could be that dude's son. John Cena's son could light it up one day. I don't have any idea. The fact is that pro wrestling could exist for decades and decades. It has already, okay? There's every indication to believe that pro wrestling is going to be around for a lifetime more than what's been around already, okay? That's dedication. That's heart. That's life. That's commitment. That's a love of the sport of professional wrestling, the one true great American art form, okay? And for Dana White to sit there and criticize is utter nonsense. You know, he took a shot and spat off the mouth about something he doesn't even know about. So I'll tell you this, more power to the talents that are firing back at him. And guess what? More power to the talents that are firing back at the other talents for firing at Dana. Do you want to know why? Because these guys are the ones in the ring taking the brunt of the hurt, the pain, the everyday aches and pains, you know, and they're putting their lives on the line every day for you and for me, okay? They can say whatever they want to say, okay? This was not a UFC fighter that came out and criticized, as has happened before. This was the guy that's not even in the ring or in the octagon, as Seth pointed out. He's not. Okay? Now, here's the issue that we always come to. Guys like as I said before, the internal controversy, internal strife of the business, guys like myself who sit back and analyze the business. You could look at me and other writers like myself and say, well, you're just criticizing. You've not been in the ring. I have been in the ring, okay? But a lot of guys have not been in the ring. But here's the difference. Are you ready for this? We try not, for the most part, I can't speak for all of my colleagues out there, okay? I can't, honest to God. But for the most part, we try not to be super vicious about it, okay? We don't have an agenda. We don't have an axe to grind by ripping on someone and trashing them and saying that they're fake and this, that, and the other. That's not what you're supposed to do, okay? You can be unhappy about a guy's work in the ring and not put him down, okay? You could have said, I felt so-and-so could have had a better match, okay? I felt like maybe he wasn't turned on tonight. It looked like maybe he got a little lazy. No disrespect intended, okay? But when it comes from outside the business, someone says, it's fake, it's all fake. You have completely dismissed what that man or woman does for a living, the way they feed their families, the way they put money in the bank and food on the table, and the way they live their lives. You've completely torn it apart. Okay? Dana White's ticked off a lot of people. It's the truth. And this thing's not going to die anytime soon. But as I said before, man, we're the ones keeping it alive. And you know what? It's only really just started. This thing's going to probably keep going forever. If he hasn't already commented again on it, he will eventually, I'm sure. Vince may even say something in the press. Who knows? If Vince is smart, he won't say a thing. But chances are he's going to because, again, competitive nature. You see what I'm saying? But it's just a long, drawn-out subject. And go beyond Dana White for a minute. Go beyond UFC. Go beyond the haters. We as pro wrestling fans have had to deal with this our entire lives. It's never going to change. Ever. Never, man. As long as you are a pro wrestling fan, you're going to have haters. You're going to have critics that call it fake, that call you silly, that rip on it every chance they get. That's life. You need to have a thick skin and toughen up. If you get mad every time the word fake is mentioned, you're not going to last very long, dude. Seriously, because if that's most you got to worry about, congratulations, your life's pretty easy. A lot of us have a lot of other things to worry about besides someone calling pro wrestling fake. It's noise to me now. It's background noise to me now. What I have a problem with is somebody of that stature saying what he said when he knows nothing about what he's talking about. That's what ticks me off. That's what ticks off so many other fans out there. It is. It's gotten so many people hot under the collar. I'm choked up. See what it does? We have too much rage, man. Sometimes we have to vent and get it out there and soapbox the way I did. That's what this whole episode was about, dude. Just getting it out there, okay? Pro wrestling versus the world. When you feel like it's us versus them all the time. Believers versus non-believers, okay? And here's the difference between us and any other religion you've ever experienced or been a part of or criticized yourself. Unlike other religions, we're not trying to pull you in. We're not trying to make you love what we love, okay? We just want to have fun and love what we do, and we'd like you to show it some respect. You don't have to love it yourself, but from a distance, if you could just be polite and either do one of two things. One, say, look, I don't follow wrestling. It's not really my thing, but those guys sure look like they're putting forth a great effort in the ring. I appreciate the athleticism. Hey, thanks for commenting. See you, bye. Or number two, if you could just shut up and I'll talk about it. Okay, that'd be great, because we don't need you. We don't need you. We're doing pretty good as it is, okay? WWE makes new fans all the time, despite what anyone says. They do, okay? It may not be the number they want all the time. It may not be happening in droves, okay? Because much of their fan base is the loyal, committed fan base. Guys like me who have been around and followed the business, not just the company, but the business, their whole lives. Guys like me are never going away. Something really, really, really bad would have to happen for me to go away. And if I did, I'd go watch someone else all the time. I watch as much as I can now. I'm a fan of the business. You can be a fan of the sport of football and you have your favorite team. Okay? But if you ever decide your favorite team's let you down too much, you're done, I can't take it anymore, you still love the sport. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't change anything. You may have lost your heart, but you haven't lost your passion, your love for the game. It's something entirely different. Okay? It's something entirely different. So here it is, folks. This is what we're all coming down to right now, okay? At the end of the day, how does this hit you? Are you really upset? Are you really losing your mind? Have you been soapboxing and ranting like I did on this episode? Or is it just all background noise to you? Because I'm going to tell you what, you're right either way. No matter what you did, no matter how you reacted, you're going to be right either way. And forewarning, okay, for all those listening, please, and tell your friends, this is not the last time. It's not the first. It certainly won't be the last. Okay? Seriously, never. This is going to continue from now to the end of time, and it always will. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay because I've learned to live with it. It's all good, man. I'm over it. I promise I'm over it. Yeah. I'll keep telling myself that, and you do the same. That's it, man. That's all I got for you. That's episode 28 in the books. That's the end of the show. Thank you guys for listening. I do appreciate it as always. I'm going to remind you one more time before we go here where to find me online. You can find me on BleacherReport.com. You can also check me out on the highly esteemed Camel Clutch blog, as well as my own personal blog, which you all are invited to check out, tomclarkbr.wix.com/blog. Thanks again for everything. Thanks for reading. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for all that you do. And folks, before we sign off this time, I'm going to give my deepest condolences, everyone involved with Roddy Piper and his family, his friends, of course. The legend passing away at the age of 61 a few days ago. Very tragic thing. No one saw it coming, much like with Dusty Rhodes. And I meant to do this at the beginning of the episode, but I thought I would go ahead and hit this right now before we sign off for this episode. So again, much condolences to Roddy's family. God bless those guys as they go through this time of grief. It's a tough thing to lose a father, so I feel for his kids. It's a big deal. And Roddy's legacy will never be matched. Can we just all agree on that one? He's one of those guys that left behind an indelible legacy that's always going to be there. You can always look to it and appreciate his work. And, you know, try telling Roddy wrestling was fake, okay? I just sort of right back to my point, man. He made his entire life's work professional wrestling. Got a lot of nerve calling something fake. I'm just throwing it out there for you, man. But, you know, great memories of Roddy, as we all do. And it's when you get off the listening to this, go to the network and watch some of Roddy Piper stuff. His story's on there. I'm pretty sure the DVD that was released. It's excellent, by the way. Go look at it, check it out. It's really good stuff. So, listen, thanks again for checking us out. I appreciate it. Come back again next time. We're going to stir the pot a little bit more with episode number 29, and then the 1-year anniversary with episode number 30. Thanks much again, as always. And we will see you next time on Tom Clark's Main Event.